the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God, and we thank you, our Lord Jesus Christ, for everything concerning everything and in everything. We thank you for granting us to all be together before you in this holy hour. We thank you for everything you've given us and for everything you've taken from us. Please help us to be attentive, and thank you for bringing our speaker, for him devoting his time to us. Help us to learn, to open our ears, to open our minds, to open our understanding. Please be with us, guide us always in the way in which you want us to walk. We ask you through the intercession of St. Mary, and Archangel Michael, and the heavenly hosts, and the prayer of Saint Timon and the 40 virgins, St. Pope Kerollos VI, St. Mina, St. Mary of Egypt, and all the choir saints, we pray thankfully, saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. In Christ Jesus our Lord. For thine is the kingdom, the power,
We're going to start in a couple of minutes, waiting for other people to show up. Just wanted to introduce you a friend of mine, Dr. Mamdouh Hanna. We served a lot together. So today he's going to talk to us about the wellness during COVID-19. I think you guys have tons of questions. So after his introductory thing, we're going to open up for discussion and the question. We're going to have some microphones around. So if you don't want to do, oh, by the way, I have to tell you that we are live stream. So if you don't want to talk, you can write it down in a piece of paper. I'll get some piece of papers and pens to write it if you feel like you don't want to talk openly, okay? Should we start or what time is it? ها؟ طب ماشي نجيب بس يعني نستنى كده couple of more minutes for everybody to come and then we'll start immediately. ممكن تديني ها؟ الزبون اساس كم؟ هو كان بيكلمني in 5 minutes looked like sounded very tired but I'm not sure. ممكن نجيب لي شوية ورق وكم قلم؟ اه and few pens. أي أقلام خمسة كان بيلعب في مناخيره. هي دوبك مش شايف اصلا. كنت بلعب في مناخير سليم. هو اللي انطمر الاثنين دول. كنت بلعب في مناخير سليم. ده الحمد لله احنا نشكر ربنا من اجل الكوفيد. بص نشكر ربنا من اجل الكوفيد. بيخبي مناخيره ويخبي وشه الاجلي وبقه اللي عمل. بص ده مش كوفيد الرحمه. لو كده وعنده كوفيد بعد الشر عليه وعطس في وشك كمان. لو عاوزت اقول لك لا ده مش ده انت بتضحك عليا. القلم ده مش هيكتب حاجه. مش انت اللي مدير الشخص؟ لا انا بس يكون مبري. لا خلاص ده محتاج ثانيه ولا ممكن تقفي هنا كده وكنترول الكيدز بليز وتدخل لي من اول 6 ل 8.
All right, guys. All right, name the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God, amen. Thank you so much for having me today with you guys.
It's really exciting to finally be in person, huh? How many people here are so excited to be here tonight? Yeah? Just 1, 2, 3? Would you rather have this on Zoom or in person? Yeah? All right, so I promised Dr. Samir that we're gonna try to keep this as short as possible so that we can actually do more questions. So we're gonna go through some of the surveys that you guys got. Who here actually filled that survey, just out of curiosity? Like, did you guys get an email to fill like some survey? Okay, anyways, so there was an email that was sent out to people in the church, and mostly is to ask them questions on how they're doing during COVID, okay? And so who knows what COVID is? Oh, we all do, all right. So this is not new. We've been living in this for quite a while now. So it's called COVID-19. It started in 2019, but then we really started seeing the effects of it right in the beginning of 2020, and a lot of you guys had to stay away in order to be from school, in order to be as safe as possible. So let's go through some of the things that you guys have answered. So the first question is, how closely are you following the news about the coronavirus? About 26% of you guys, about a quarter of you said that you guys are following it very closely. So the reason that we're going through these is we're going to talk about some of the effects of this a little bit later, and then we can go from there in terms of what healthy things can we do in order to stay as healthy as we can while we're at this. The next question that we got asked is, how worried are you that someone in your family will be exposed to coronavirus? So a big portion of people were relatively worried, so about half of you. And then maybe, let's see, 28% or so, they're very worried, which makes sense, right? Because if we've seen the effects of this virus on a lot of people, so we really are worried about our families. So that's good news. That means we care about our families and we want them to be in the best shape possible. How connected would you say you feel to your friends? Most of you said you're pretty connected, but obviously it gets a little bit harder when we're at home to stay connected. So we're going to talk about some of the stuff that we can do in order to stay more connected, and what are some of the things that make this difficult at this time right now. Then we went on and asked, how connected would you say you feel to your family right now? Most of you said you were pretty connected to your family, so you're staying at home with them. But there is also a big I mean, there's no one that says not at all connected, so that's good news there. How lonely would you say you feel right now? And maybe about a quarter or so says that we're feeling pretty lonely. It makes it a lot harder right now that we are staying indoors. We're not doing the activities that we usually do, so we're feeling a lot more lonely. The next question we went to is, how worried are you about not being able to keep up with your schoolwork? This is probably the most important thing for us to talk about a little bit today, and we're going to be our focus, because this is a change. We're not expected to do all of this homework and all the schoolwork and all the expectations of us turning things in. It's a whole different world. When you had to at least go to school, it was at least some separation. So we're going to be talking about this in a little bit. Then we went on to, how worried are you about not being able to keep up with your extracurricular activities? Some people here are athletes, and some people are interested in doing things, whether it be in music, whatever other hobbies you got, drawing, or any of that. And a big portion of you said they're very worried because a lot of these things got canceled and it makes it difficult to do. We went on and asked about how worried are you about not being able to be in church and attend liturgies. A big portion people are worried, which made me happy. That means a lot of us want to be in church, and they want to participate in the liturgies. And it's very, very important for you guys here tonight that your spirituality is connected. So that means that it's a big source of help for you. So we'll be exploring some of that. Last two questions, we go on, and how often do you confess during the pandemic? And that raises a lot of questions, right? How can we confess? Do we do it over Zoom? Do we do it over the phone? Do we meet Abuna in person? All of those things. So a lot of you also kind of missed that when you had it more regularly, possibly that you felt a little bit better about that. Then we go on how worried are you about not being able to keep up with Sunday school on Zoom? Most of you said that you were doing okay, but I bet a lot of us would rather be in person so we can see our friends and connect a little bit more. It's a lot more live and more human in person. So moving on, I mean, this is just from yesterday. It's kind of hard to see a little bit, but these are the statistics for COVID, just past days, past few weeks or so. And the numbers are decreasing, so that is a good news. It's something that to be hopeful about. The vaccine coming in pretty recently, that's also good news. So it's important to be very careful in terms of the news and what we receive. So I want to take a minute and talk about this because what we take in is really what stays in, all right? So what we absorb, whatever it is, whether it be good or bad, all right? Whether it be something that, let's say, you watch a movie and you learn something from it or whatever, that stays in. So we have to be very careful with our senses and what we absorb. And we'll talk about that, what we hear and what we listen to. And we shouldn't just passively let other people fill our heads with whatever they want to, whether it be in the news or whatever it is. Because I bet if you walk in a room and you go in your home and you notice your parents or something that's off about at home, right? You can tell, you can just feel that there's something wrong. And you feel like the anxiety. No one has to talk, but what is it about just feeling, right? So we have to be very careful with what we input in order to feel better about ourselves. So that means we need to have some kind of criteria on how we do that. So what are some sources of stress that we are dealing with? A lot of them, right? So for you guys, we can go to some of you, school demands, frustrations, right? Negative thoughts about ourselves. Some of us here in this room, we don't feel really too well about ourselves. We don't maybe have even a positive outlook about how we feel, all right? If we were to describe ourselves, maybe it might not be the most positive thing. Another thing is maybe changes in our body that we go through at this age. Our bodies constantly changes. Some of them we like, some of them we don't. And then problems with other friends, peers. That makes it harder, especially if you're on the phone or talking to them over Zoom or something like that, right? That makes it a lot harder. Sometimes maybe the place that we live in. Other things are maybe death of loved one. Maybe you might know someone in your family or even friends or other people that have passed away this year. And that's really difficult for a lot of us, and that's a source of stress. Even if we don't know those people, if we just hear about other people that are passing away, just the mere fact of someone going through this stress makes us feel source of stress. Moving or changing of schools, that hasn't really been a lot of problems this year, or maybe a little bit, because a lot of it is on Zoom anyways. And then family, financial problem, it's real. If your family's struggling in any way financially, you will feel it in all ways for all of us. So the one thing I want to talk to you about what is understanding stress. Okay, who wants to know what stress is and what happens? All right? So the reason we want to talk about stress is that we got to figure out what is happening to us so that we can actually feel better about it and take care of it. So I want you to imagine that you are in a forest and you're just going about with your friends and you're feeling good, things are good, you're having a good time, and the trees are nice, the nature is good, the sun is out, and all of a sudden a bear comes and attacks you. What's the first thing that you're gonna wanna do? I wanna hear from you guys. So what do you wanna do when a bear comes? All right, what do you wanna do? Say that, I'm sorry? Okay, so you're gonna try to fight the bear, right? All right, what would you do? Okay, lay dead, right? Because you want the bear to not think that you are alive, because so that they don't attack you. Good job, that was a good one. What's another one? Can someone help me? Okay, so yeah, so pretty much escape. So that's very, very good. You guys got it. So this is the stress response. We call it fight, flight, or freeze. They're all F. Fight, flight, or freeze. So the reason I talk to you about that is a lot of times any other sources of stress, they do that to us. It does that to us, where we're either trying to fight the stress, whatever it is, be in school or whatever is going on, or we're trying to escape it. So, instead of taking care of this, I'm gonna watch YouTube, I'm gonna go on Netflix, do other stuff so I don't even have to worry about the stress, right? Or freeze, be like, oh, I don't know what to do. I'm just gonna get stuck there. So that's important to know. So we're moving on. We're gonna try to go through this a little bit as quicker as possible. How do we deal with stress? So this is whether we are in COVID or whether we are on a day-to-day basis. It doesn't actually really change that much. But we will review some of this. Might be obvious. You might be doing it already, which is great. And then it might be some of the stuff that you might learn that you haven't done before. So exercise and eat regularly, all right? So if any of us goes without eating a meal, it's very common for us to feel stressed, all right? So we gotta make sure that we're eating regularly, each day, whatever it is, whatever meal plan that you have. Exercising that can be difficult. Some people now have the excuse of, oh, the gyms are closed, we can't go. Trust me, even before COVID, people were still having the excuse of not working out or not exercising. So that one is discipline. So whatever you put your mind to, you will get it done. There's a lot of exercises and on YouTube that you can do, I'm sure, and go from there. So that's one that can decrease stress somewhat. What other important things? Good enough sleep. So can you guys tell me, how many hours do we need of good sleep? Just asking randomly, huh? 8 hours. Anybody else? Okay, so the good answer to this, so those are all good ranges. So anywhere from 8, so from technically 7 to 12 range, but definitely at least 7 hours is the minimum, all right? So 7 hours is minimum. And as we are younger, we might need more sleep, so that's normal. What's another thing? How many people here drink coffee? All right, a lot of hands, all right. And anything that is caffeinated, so it doesn't have to only be coffee, right? Anything like Coke, sometimes anything that has caffeine, it's very, very important to be cognizant about that because it will sometimes make our anxiety go up a little bit higher. So we have to be careful, and my recommendation, if you're gonna do anything that's caffeinated, is only once a day and before 2 o'clock. Anything after 2 o'clock, you should try to avoid doing because it makes it difficult to what? Sleep, right? Because again, we go back to the point of sleep. Obviously, this is really obvious. I shouldn't have to talk about this, but anyways, I have to mention it anyways. Stay away from any drugs, alcohol, or other cigarettes. This is nothing that we have to hopefully worry about too much. And then we're learning relaxation exercises. What does it mean for us to relax? Can someone tell me, what is it to do some exercises to help us relax? What does that mean? And try to speak as loud as possible because I can't hear you. Can someone give her a mic to help me hear her? Do something you enjoy. All right, that's perfect. So something that you enjoy can help you relax. What are some things that can make you enjoy, like what we heard earlier? What are things that we can enjoy that can help us relax? Anything, yes. Watching something, okay, that can help us relax. What are other things?
Video games.
Playing games, okay, that can help us too, as long as everything that we do that has to be in moderation. Listening to music. There's another thing that is very important, and we do this we learn this from a lot of the saints, is prayers and meditation, right? A lot of the saints have taught us that meditation, and this is a concept that we've seen across a lot of religions, a lot of spirituality, a lot of people talk about it, meditating. So figuring out a way to just kind of be able to relax your mind to help control that more. Another thing is that when we are stressed, sometimes the cause of stress could be our parents, all right? It's real, and they sometimes they want what's best for us, all right? A lot of times they want what's best for us, but it's important to be able to communicate with our parents politely, letting them know, hey, I'm stressed. I'm feeling, not really the best right now, and let's say it's not time for you to talk. Say politely, hey, we're gonna need to talk about this a little bit later, or someone is yelling. So you just politely say, please don't yell at me, and just kind of approach it to let them know that this is actually stressing you, because sometimes people do things and they don't know that you're stressed, and then we act out and we get angry, mad, and yell. That doesn't help. That's not a source of stress. The other thing is to be able to do things. Let's say you are about to present something in your school and you're stressed about that, is to rehearse, right? Ask your friends, be like, hey, I have this presentation coming up. what can I do in order to help my stress go down so that to be able to rehearse it can reduce the stress. Last thing, have anybody here heard about SMART goals? I want to take a minute and talk about this because I think this is very important for us nowadays. Have anybody heard about SMART goals before? All right, very, very good. So it sounds like a lot of people have learned it. In order to do well in our daily living, and this is in anything that we do, any goal that we have to have something called SMART goals, okay? What SMART goals, it stands for, each letter of those stands for something. S stands for specific. Your goal must be specific, okay? And then M stands for measurable. A stands for attainable. R is relevant. T is time-based. And we're gonna actually practice this right now. So let's say you want to do well in terms of getting your homework done. And it's really, really difficult right now to do this because, you know, staying home and we're already like tired and it's just like being home all day. Like it's just already exhausting, all right? So when you set your goal of saying, hey, I just want to get good grades, well, yeah, that's a good goal, but it's not really specific, right? So we need to be a little bit specific in our goal so that we can actually get it done. Because otherwise it's like, okay, how am I going to get those good grades? Do I just stay at home and like hopefully pray and then the grades will turn out good, right? That doesn't work. So a little bit more smarter goal, and you can apply this in other things, is saying, hey, I'm gonna complete my homework during the hours of 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. I hope you actually use more time than 6 to 7, but we'll try this for like this goal at least, 6 to 7 o'clock on school nights, on my desk, in my bedroom, all right? After completing my homework, I'll put my homework in my homework folder so that I can turn it in to my teacher, whatever, or different way, or maybe upload it, send it to your portal online or whatever that you need to do. So what do we notice about this goal? It's actually a specific goal. We say, hey, I'm going to study from this time to this time, so when I get done, okay, now I can play from this time to this time. So everything in our life that we do in order to reduce stress needs to be scheduled. So what does that mean? So that means that if we want to do the fun things that we do, they can't just be haphazardly whenever we want them. And you can't just study all the time too, because who wants to study all the time? That's too boring, that's too much, right? So you have to be able to schedule and prioritize what's important. So let's say I have a test coming up next week. Now, my goals might change, so I might be spending more time studying this week, still doing some fun stuff, whether it be listening to music from this time to this time, listening to tasbihah, talking to a friend, whatever it is that will make you feel better. And then after the test, and we don't have a test for another maybe month, we can do more fun stuff, but also still study, because we can't just do one thing or the other, or something's gonna suffer. So if you're only studying all the time, your mental health will suffer. If you're always playing all the time, your grades will suffer, and maybe also mental health then will suffer. Next thing is decrease negative self-talk. I can't really stress this. All right? Go for it. Yes, of course. So S is specific. M is measurable. A is attainable. R is relevant, and T is time-based. And while we're at it, we can look at this. So this goal is specific, yes. It says how I'm gonna do my homework and do all of that. Is it measurable? Yes, because I say I'm gonna study from 6 to 7, so that you can measure that, right? That's an hour, all right? Attainable? Yeah, because I'm gonna be able to, complete that within that range, because that homework shouldn't take more than an hour. Hopefully that makes sense, if that's what we set. And then relevant, yes. And then time-based is that, okay, after 7 p.m., I'm done. Decreasing self-negative talk, okay? So some of us sometimes get stuck in this, and we all do, and I do, and we have to admit it, sometimes that I don't think the best of myself, all right? Sometimes we get stuck in the cycle of saying, hey, am I really smart enough to do this? Am I really good enough to do this? Am I even capable of doing this with this whole COVID thing? Man, I don't know, I should just whatever. So that's negative self-talk. All right? How many of us get stuck in that? You don't have to raise your hand, but I just want you to think about it, all right? A lot of us do get stuck in that cycle. So it's going to be important whenever we feel negative about ourselves to catch ourselves. First of all, step one, wait a second. Am I smart enough? And then you stop there and then you challenge that thought. Be like, yeah, I'm smart enough. I can do this. And then you can even try to find reasons why you're smart enough, right? Or whatever it is that you're thinking. Or like some of us, at least in this age, sometimes think, am I pretty enough? Like, right? Or am I good looking enough? Like, a lot of these things come to us, which is normal for us to have these thoughts. It's okay for us to get these thoughts every now and then that we go through this, especially that sometimes we don't have source of validation. We don't have people, like when we go to school sometimes in person, be like, oh, hey, nice glasses. I like your glasses you got. But sometimes we don't even have that, right, in our lives. So it's going to be important to be able to say, hey, give self-talk that will be positive and have other people around you in your life that are positive. So if you're surrounded by all people that are just going to be constantly negative, you got to be careful of who is in your life. Because, again, stress the point that I talked about in the very beginning is what comes in is what sticks. So if I have people telling me positive things in my life, these are people to keep in terms of friends. If people are being negative, I need to be able to cut that off. All right? Let's see, we're almost done here, guys. So how to deal with stress? You need to learn to do things in a positive sense to acknowledge what you've done right. So let's say you have a difficult homework to do or an assignment or project, and you were supposed to do maybe 50% of it. And you only maybe got, I don't know, 25, 30% of it done. Instead of beating yourself up, be like, man, I haven't gotten 50% done of this test. You can do that, that's one, or like this assignment. You can do that, right? Or you can be like, oh, you know what, I tried my best. I got that 30% done. Tomorrow I'm gonna work on that 20%, all right? So it's important to be able to give yourself self-affirmations. The other thing is, sometimes it's important to say, hey, I'm going to take a time out. I'm gonna take a break from this. This is too much. So taking a break and saying, hey, if I'm feeling too stressed, maybe I need to take an hour. Like, hopefully you're gonna be scheduling it, saying, hey, I'm gonna do something good for myself, right? Whether it be listening to music, taking a shower, or going on a walk, and letting people know that you are stressed around you so that they understand what's happening. Sometimes it's difficult for us because we think that people don't get us, they don't understand what we're going through, they're not our age, maybe sometimes our parents, they don't get us or whatever. But it's important to let them know, hey, I'm a little stressed right now. I'm gonna do this thing that's positive for myself in order to feel a little bit better. The other thing, this goes without saying, and it's a little bit more difficult and now I understand, is to build a network of people that will build you up. And friends, it would be good, obviously, if they're your age, they're from church or from other places where you can stay in touch with, and also having people that are older than us, mentors, whether it be Sunday school teachers or other people that are godly and that they will guide us in a positive direction and kind of deal with that. To kind of conclude before we finish off the last couple slides and then we'll take questions, it's important to know that this is not new, what we're going through, guys. This is not new. This is not the first time that we have gone through so much stress in humanity, right? So it seems novel because to us, the way when we were raised and we lived, we would go to school, we do our things. So this is a change, but it's not new. People have gone through really difficult times like that and they have gone through it. And the good news is, guess what? We will get through it. And you have to think that way. You have to think positively in order to say we'll get through it. So the important thing is that we look in the Bible and we see that, and it says this here, and Jesus has said to us, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. So our spirituality is very important at this time in order to help us. I can talk to you all day about exercise and do all of those things. If spirituality is not there, that really is difficult to do. The other thing that's going to be important for us is that we have to limit the time that we spend talking about and watching and listening and following the news. So there's a big portion of us that have said that we are following the COVID news closely. We need to limit that as much as possible. And sometimes it's hard because our parents are watching TV and they're listening to the Arabic TV or whatever English TV, listening to COVID and what's happening and Biden and Trump and all of that. We need to limit as much as possible in terms of that source, right? And whether it be go to your room or not watch it, or don't, if it's like in your home page on your computer, once you open the computer, make sure that's not the case, so that way it's not being consumed unintentionally. Let's see. If you are feeling overwhelmed after trying your best doing everything, make sure if you need help to seek help, all right? And that can be through your school. It can be through figuring out if you need, if it gets to a point where you need someone to talk to, then reaching out for mental health, it's okay. We all at one point need to talk to someone that is professional. This is their job and this is what they do in order to help us. So I just want to end with what I call a message of hope that Jesus gives us, and it's very important to kind of leave with this. And then we'll take questions and we can go from there. I think we're doing pretty good on time. So in Philippians 4:19, I want you to remember this. And Jesus said, "And my God will supply every need of yours according to his riches in glory in Christ." So the good news, whether we fail or succeed, whether we fall or rise, whether we work or rest, that through Jesus we are enough. So we have to remember that Jesus Christ has come to tell us that we are enough and that we will get through this, and that through him things are going to get better. So that's all I have prepared for you guys in terms of presentation. And I wanted to take the rest of the time so that we can discuss and talk about this. Any questions that come to mind, whether you've written it or you want to take a mic to ask questions, and we will just have a discussion about this. And this, it doesn't have to be related to COVID, anything. It can be, but just like mental health, how can I do better in school, how can I do better in life? I don't think any of you are planning for your wedding, so don't ask me about marriage yet. Yes? Yes. So the question is, if I feel stressed out, I don't feel comfortable talking to my parents, what do I do? So that's a really good question, right? Because sometimes we really, the stress, the source of stress could be our parents. So going up to them and be like, I'm really stressed out from you, you're making my life miserable. Obviously, we can do that, and we will do that. We actually probably all do that anyways. But it will be important to identify sources in our lives that can help us be able to talk. And this can be someone, whether it be in school. A lot of the schools now, they know much so the stress that you're all going through, and there's resources. People are not utilizing these resources as much. So asking your school counselor, hey, I'm feeling stressed and I want to talk to someone. So that can be one thing, right? So that's a free resource. You're not paying for it to do that. They provide that for you. The other source obviously can be in our church, whether it be with the servants, other people that can get us connected with people that we can trust, with our friends. And these things, I don't want you to think that COVID is limiting that, because sometimes people will be like, oh, because of COVID, I can't go talk to anybody. But there are other resources, whether it be, even I know Zoom is not our favorite thing, but if it gets to a point that you're really depressed, you can't get out of bed, you're not really doing your homework, you're not eating, things are getting really like spiraling through, you need to see someone professional if it gets to that point, right? So there are resources to do that. Does that answer the question? Or, yeah, okay, sounds good. Yes.
Or I'm trying to give myself excuse for it.
Okay, so the question is, how do I differentiate between real stress and an excuse? Well, it's actually pretty simple in terms of being honest with yourself, right? Because a lot of times if we're trying to escape doing homework and doing all of those things, we're like, oh, I'm stressed. I'm not wanting to do that. That's one thing. And stress usually, if true stress comes usually with physical symptoms, right? And mental symptoms. So what I mean by that, so let's review that real quick. And that's kind of what we were talking about when we talked about earlier. The Wi-Fi? Sure. Is that good? Oh, I don't know what's happening. Okay, so real stress comes in with symptoms. So what are symptoms of stress, of actual real stress, right? So some of those is feeling actually worried. And then the other thing is feeling that something bad is about to happen, okay? And then having a thought that keeps coming and keeps going in your head over and over and you can't really stop it. And then the other ones is feeling sometimes in our body. We feel stressed in terms of we feel it in our body, our chest sometimes, our breathing and things like that. So that's one way to be able to know it. So mentally and physically you actually feel the stress. Now using the excuse, and some of us do that, is what we call scapegoating, right? It's like, oh, I don't want to do homework, so I'm going to go tell people I'm stressed. That's not being honest. So that's kind of a way to tell it if it's actually true stress or not. But here's what I'm going to warn. Is if someone is stressed, it's also important to take that as real, right? We can't really dismiss it. Because sometimes, our kids will come to us, go to parents and say, hey, we're stressed. And we're like, you're just playing around. There's nothing wrong with you. You just go do your homework. You're just saying that because you don't want to do it. That's invalidating. So I think it's important for the parents to take it seriously and try to kind of talk about it more. You're stressed about something? Okay, let's talk about it. What's stressing you? What's going on? So that we can come up with an actionable plan so that we can actually work through that stress. Because stress is not a diagnosis where you have it and you have it for life. You have it and you can work on it. There's things that can be done about stress. It's not like it's a diagnosis and that's it. We're done. So it can be worked through. Let's see, we have a question here. Let me try to answer this real quick and then I'll do it. Can you help me read this? Okay, so let me get the next question. Sorry, what was the next question over there?
Hello?
Yes.
All right. Pretty much, I wanted to ask you a question about therapists. So, you know how everyone kind of has their own problems? If I talk to a therapist, they have their own problems, and they're just listening to my problems. It's not really going to do anything, because I could do that myself with my family, and they have their own problems.
Gotcha.
And they could compare your problems with their problems and stuff. So I don't really trust therapists.
Okay, totally okay. So let me, just to answer, rephrase the question, and then I'll tell you my thoughts. You want to know what I think, right? All right, let me tell you. So the question is, hey, we have stress, right? And then let's say we go to a therapist because we need it for whatever reason it is, right? And then we talk to this therapist. Well, the therapist already has problems, right? We all have problems. And the therapist listens to so many problems. So isn't that just like not helpful? Like, where am I going? When I can talk to anybody else, I can talk to my family, but I'm only adding to their stress. So to summarize the question, it's this burden that we feel. And this comes normally when we have the negative thoughts about ourselves and things like that. Sometimes we feel like we're a burden on others. Man, like, I'm stressed. Do I really need to add stress on other people, right? It's not really going to be helpful. I'm just going to deal with it myself. That's not true, because if we don't do that, we can actually turn it off. I don't need it. Yeah. So if we actually don't find the right people to talk to, then that becomes an issue. So going back to therapists, I'll just answer that, and then I'll want to hear more from you. Therapists actually are trained to be able to listen to those things and be able to guide you. It's not just listening, actually. A lot of times therapy, if you do need it, I'm not saying everybody here needs therapy, but if you do need therapy, there is homework and there's work that they do with you in order to feel better, give you exercises. So let's say they figure out with you some of the things that you are maybe stuck in. So maybe you're thinking negatively about a certain thing, about your, siblings. You have a problem with your brothers or sisters or in school or whatever it is. They help you work through some of those things. And if you don't trust therapists, it's okay. You can find other people that you can identify that can help. Did I answer your question? Yeah. Yeah, please.
One part that you didn't explain very well is that you told me that they're trained to be able to, listen to your problems and give you homework and stuff. I'm not saying this is me, but some people get stressed by homework, and it might be like a little thing, but what is it called? They have their own problems, and there's a very big chance that they will compare their problems. If they have the same problem as you, there's a very big chance that they will compare their problems to your problem.
So like as in the therapist?
Yes.
Okay, so that they will compare it to your problems?
Yes.
Okay, and so, and you're concerned about what? What's your concern? So let's say that is the case. What's your concern?
Okay, so I've had a therapist before.
Mm-hmm.
I never really liked opening up to them because it's not someone that I trust.
Mm-hmm.
I trust talking to my older brother.
Mm-hmm.
I tell him everything. But I don't trust to talk to a therapist or just, like, I don't want to talk about it to someone that I don't know, because there's not a lot of good people on this earth, and I can't trust a therapist with my problems as much as I can trust a family member.
Totally, and I get it. So I'm not just to preface before I go any further. Obviously, don't know the case, and I'm just going to be speaking generally about this, right? So in terms of that, that's totally understandable. And if you don't trust a therapist, that doesn't mean that all therapists are bad. It sounds like maybe sometimes people have tried different therapists, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. The idea is that you get the help that you actually need, right? So if you're a family member, you have a family member that you're able to talk to and they're helping you, great, perfect, right? But if the problem is extending beyond that, then there might be more help that you need that maybe family members are not trained to do. That's it. So if family member is doing the job, perfect. Glad. I'm not going to tell you to go towards that, but if not, then sometimes we need more help. How do you know?
How do you know if I'm talking to a family member, how am I supposed to know if what they're doing is helping me or not? I mean, my mind is not fully grown yet.
Mm-hmm.
So and they're not supposed to tell me if I got better. I'm supposed to be judging myself on if I got better.
Right.
But how am I supposed to know if what they're doing is right if my mind is not fully grown?
Okay, so how do you know is by the symptoms or whatever it is. So let's say we are stressed, whatever anxiety symptoms, or our mind keeps going, and we talk to our family members and they try to calm us down, and then you see how the symptoms are, or you can even rate it. So before talking to my family, out of 10, how do I feel? Oh man, my anxiety is like 10 out of 10. And after I talk to them, I'm still anxious, but it went down to 7 or 6. That's an improvement. So you can actually rate it. That's one way. The other thing I recommend, and this is, you don't even need therapy, is to write stuff down, okay? So write, what are you feeling? And how is that actually, by the fact that you're just writing it, you're letting your thoughts out on paper, that alone can reduce the anxiety. And then if you're still having symptoms of feeling, it's not really doing the job, then you know that parents haven't done it. Let's talk after, too. Yeah, go for it, please.
Pretty much, you said, wait, sorry, what did you say again at the beginning? Like the beginning part?
I forgot what I said, but so I was saying, how do you know if family members are helping you or not? So the way that you know is by measuring whatever it is that we're feeling, whatever symptoms that we have, right? So if let's say the thing that we're worried about is irritable. Go ahead. You remember. Okay.
So if I'm talking to a family member,
Mm-hmm.
and let's say what I am feeling anxious about is my friends or something like that. Let's say that the same thing happened again, so it made me feel worse. How am I supposed to deal with that?
Okay, so let me know if I'm understanding the question right. So let's say my friends are stressing me out, and then I go to my parents, and they try to help me, right? Whatever, they tell you, okay, do this or don't do that. And then the stress happens again, and then you're feeling worse now. Is that right? Okay, got it. So to answer that is, if the source of stress itself is not changed, then it's difficult to really be able to do anything about it, right? So it's what we call the stimulus. What happened? Caused it stress. So we have to evaluate those friends that are causing us stress. Remember when I talked about a little bit earlier, we were trying to figure out what is the input, what's coming to us. So if people are making us more stressed, that we have to question whether they are the right people in our lives or not. And whether we are overreacting to it or not, right? Because sometimes people might just be having good intentions and then we're worried or we're anxious about something. So we need to identify, number one, is the stress caused by other people or my reaction to it? After you identify that, then you're able to kind of work on that a little bit more. I'm happy actually to talk to you. If you want to stick around after, we're happy to talk and take any other questions.
Okay, I have a question here. Should you relate even if you have too much homework and don't have time for relationships? He means social life. Should we do homework right after school?
So I don't understand the first part.
I think he's talking about his time to socialize with his family, friends and all, because he has a lot of homework. Should I do my homework right after school so I would spare some time for social life?
Okay, so that's a very good question. And I think that comes down to, again, the SMART goals that we talked a little bit earlier in terms of planning, okay? How many people in here, and honestly, have planners at home? Actual planner. Or like, okay, perfect, like a calendar or a planner. So, good, perfect. So a lot of us do. If you don't, you need to invest in one, and it can be, I actually recommend doing it pen and paper because it actually makes you get away from the social media as much as possible, or like away from technology. But if you want to do it on the phone, it's fine too. So to answer that is, if your life is not planned, things are just gonna go at whatever time they go, right? So if we have homework to do and we want to socialize and we can't pick which one to do, well, why don't you do both? But you have to be able to put a time frame on what you're going to get done. So if let's say I assign you a homework and tell you, hey, give it to me in 2 days, and when you're like, okay, I'm going to do it the day before, and you don't even know how much time it's going to take, and you just kind of haphazardly do it, and you're like, okay, I'm going to socialize. That's not organized life. Right? So I'll give you an example. This is really easy to remember. So for example, Dr. Samir at his clinic, when he has people to see, there's something called appointment, right? Not anybody can just walk in and just see him at any point and they want to talk to him, right? It needs to be organized. His day needs to be organized, saying, okay, I'm going to do this first. Let's say I have procedures. So I'm going to do my procedures first, then I'm going to do this. I'm going to talk to this patient. I'm going to see this client, whatever it is, it needs to be organized, and it can't just be haphazardly. Otherwise, then he maybe will just see one patient the whole day. That's not enough. You need to be able to put a time limit to what you do. So I would say after when you come, after you're done with school, you can say, okay, I'm gonna take a 30-minute break maybe. I'm gonna do something good for myself, and then I'm gonna spend 2 hours doing homework. Then I'm gonna talk to my friend for 1 hour. And you need to follow that schedule as much as possible. Dr. Samir, that answer the question? Okay, what's next question?
Stress.
Yes.
We all have stress, and sometimes personal problems can come to stress as well. Why I'm asking this is because, well, kind of like what Patrick said, homework can cause stress, especially in online schooling.
Yes, for sure.
But like, say you're in middle school, and of course, probably some people have, or most people have 7 teachers, and they have to go to all 7 periods each day. That's almost like 6 to 7 hours a day. Not only that, but well, that can cause stress, I believe. But not only that, you get tons of homework. So what I'm trying to say is, say you have like a lot of homework, and how do I say this? Well, that was unexpected.
So you have a lot of homework.
Yeah. So say you have a lot of homework, and you're like me. You do most of it, but then you forget some, and then the next day you find it overdue. And at the end, like say you want to have fun in the weekend, but you can't because you have to do overdue homework. And you really want to have some free time, but you can't because your parents are like, you have to do your homework first.
Right.
But it's too much for you, and it's pretty hard, or like it well, in a certain way, like stress, if you know what I mean. But
yeah.
if you were me, what would you do?
Okay. So what I'm hearing, the question is that you guys are really being overworked, right, in terms of having homework. But I think in general, what has changed is that, anyways, we've always had homework. This is not something new, right? We've always had homework. But now what is happening is that we are online the whole day. But if we were to, let's say, move on in person, we would do that all day. And then you have all this work that you need to get done. So this problem is, first of all, I want to take a minute and say this is not completely just the homework issue itself. It's not because we're home. What's actually the problem is that now we are not doing other things in order to help us do well. So when you say, let's say you have homework and it's overdue, where's the problem there? The problem is that we didn't organize it right. So we need to be able to take a minute, step back and say, okay, I want to have fun on the weekend. Okay, I'm gonna do Saturday and Sunday, I'm not gonna study a bit. So that means I need to be able to plan during the week to do that. I would argue and say just dedicating the weekend just for fun, and that means you're gonna be really stressed during the week. You have chores at home? Like your parents are asking you to do stuff at home and stuff? Right. Can you tell me what chores are? I'm kind of curious to what you think. So, okay. So all of those things should be planned as much as possible. These are not emergencies. So let's say your parents are asking you to clean your room. You know you're gonna clean your room every day. So that needs to be planned. Or like wash the dishes. These things need to be planned. If what you're telling me, an emergency comes and you have to go, okay, that's a different story and you have to change your priorities a little bit. But it's important to be able to schedule those things in order to do better in it. And I'm happy to also talk a little bit more about things that we can work on and to be more organized.
Okay, there's a lot of question about homework and how should we do it if it's supposed to take 20 to 30 minutes. In a regular time with COVID, it takes 2 to 3 hours how we do it. So I think there's a lot of stress due homework.
Okay, I want to hear more from you guys as much as possible. So, why is it taking 2 to 3 hours? Can someone tell me? Maybe I'm missing something. So I want to hear. So you say normally it would take 20 to 30 minutes, but now it's taking an hour, a couple hours. Do you have an idea? Why?
when I'm done with school, I always just go straight to homework until 9 o'clock, where that's my bedtime.
Is the actual homework taking that long to do, or are you distracted by other things that are happening?
No, after school I take a 2-hour or 3-hour break, like watching TV, and then I work, and then I usually finish like on Wednesday or on Thursday. So what I mean is like some people like use more time to do homework,
Right.
and they finish earlier.
Okay, so some people are finishing their homework a lot sooner, and then sometimes it's taking us a little bit longer. So it comes down to, let's say normally you would be in school until what, like 3 o'clock maybe sometimes, normally? And it's been always the case? It's always been, guys, 12 o'clock for you guys? So you have to set time, say, okay, I'm gonna do this homework from this time to this time, and sometimes you don't have to do it in one sitting. I mean, if it's due tomorrow, then yes, you have to do it right away. But you can do it in what we call in portions, okay? So let's say, okay, I have a 2-hour homework. I'm gonna say this homework is gonna take 2 hours. You have to first of all figure that out first. How long will it take to complete this task? 2 hours? Okay, fine. And I'm too tired after school. After 12, I wanna take a break, right? Perfect. So how long of a break do I need? And you need to divide the day in terms of the hours of the day, right? To be able to figure out what we're gonna do. I'm gonna be awake from now until, what time do you go to sleep? 9 o'clock. How many hours do you have? 9 hours, right? So in those 9 hours, if I say I'm gonna take 5 hours of having fun, and then doing 4 hours of studying, well, if you have homework only 2 hours, then that's perfect, because then you actually have 2 more hours left. But if you actually have more work, then you need to figure it out. So one suggestion, and you can try it, right? I don't know your homework, so I don't know exactly how it works, but let's say after school, I'm gonna take an hour break, and in this hour, I need to do something that's gonna help me, right? Whether it be go out on a run, take a shower, do something that's good. After that, and you can time yourself, because on your phone you can do it. Say, okay, 1 hour, that's it. I'm gonna finish. Even though I don't wanna study. No one wants to study, right? You go, okay, I'm gonna study for 1 hour, then I'm gonna take a 10-minute break. I recommend the hour interval with breaks, right? I've done this in college. It was really hard for me to study from 1 to 9 p.m. That's impossible. There is no one in here that can study from 1 to 9 straight. So it's important to say, okay, I'm gonna take one big break. Let's say from 12 to 1, I'm gonna take a break. That's big. I'm gonna take another break from 6 to 7. Those are my 2 big breaks. And then I'm gonna take the 10-minute breaks between the intervals. So I'm gonna study from 1 to say 2, take a 10-minute break. Then come back and study from 2:10 until 3:10, take a 10-minute break. Go for it, I can hear you.
You get stress from your teachers, like if they don't understand what you're trying to do or you're trying to help them with, or they're like dumb.
They don't what? So your teachers don't understand?
Yeah, so they usually give me stress, or they're like, you need to come to my class after school for absolutely no reason.
Okay. So in that sense, if that becomes an issue with a certain teacher, then I don't know the exact details of this, but I would say, I mean, if you feel like it doesn't make sense or anything like that, sometimes involving an adult to help you with that can be a case. Or explaining to the teacher, be like, hey, I want to kind of understand, like you're asking me to come after school, and sometimes it's intimidating to do that, so that's why we ask an adult to do it. But you want me to come after school and I have like all this homework and so it's kind of hard for me to get that school stuff done. So sometimes actually speaking to our teachers, because they don't understand what we're going through, they can't understand it, but do it very nice. They'll be like, hey, I don't know what's going on, and you want me to come after school, and that's taking an hour away from my studying. Can you explain to me how that can help me? Or figure out an adult that can be a mediator for you in that case. Okay, go for it.
So I have something to add to his question. So he said teachers don't understand and that can annoy you. I can relate a lot because like if you're late to class, the teachers always mark points off, but then like when they're late to class, they make up some excuse for it.
Right.
And like homework, and we have to do our tests, which we put the time into it, but then they take their time to grade it. I don't think it's fair for the students when the teachers get to take advantage of the time.
I totally agree with you. I couldn't agree more with you, right? In terms of the sense that it's not fair. But the reality is, sometimes it's not really designed to be fair in a sense, right? You have a job. When you have a job, you're like, I'm gonna go do my job. It doesn't matter what other people are doing. Why? Because if you keep comparing yourself to other people, and this is actually very good for the rest of your life. So let's say you go to a job, like you're hired, okay? Like, and I'm gonna pay you. You're gonna come work for me, all right? All right, you can come work for me. I'm gonna pay you $10 an hour, all right? And you come to work late, and I say every 5 minutes you're late, I'm gonna deduct money from your paycheck. That's just the way, those are the agreement. And I'm the boss, and I go in late, right? I decide these are the rules that are by it. And you decide whether or not you wanna work for that person or not. In school, you don't really have that option, you have to, right? This is your job, you have to go in time so that you're not marked absent. These are the rules that are given. Sometimes they don't make sense, they're not fair, I agree with you. We just play by the rules in order to pass because we wanna get good grades. Because how else are we gonna do? We're gonna challenge the system? We're gonna say, okay, teacher, I'm gonna fire you? We don't have that, right? So what we have to do is actually just kind of play by the rules. It sucks, but it's just the way it is. Yes.
One person is complimenting his therapy and therapist, and he said that I improved a lot. I'm thankful for them. And I think he's answering Patrick. A lot of question about homework, so it seemed like planning is a big issue and the stress accordingly. Yeah. But I have another question here. Somebody is asking, what if you're stressed about big problem and you have a problem to report to the police and whatnot, what you do?
A big problem?
A big problem to solve, like math or whatever, and then he go to another problem that might be related to a civil issue that he has to report to the police, and that would make him very anxious.
Yeah, that's difficult to answer honestly for me, but like, so if there is an issue that is civil, I don't know the case exactly, but if it's something that's related that you have to report because you've gotten in trouble or something like that, it's difficult, and there's nothing that you can do about it over and over in terms of feeling better about talking to the police. Or I'm assuming. Let me just make sure that I kind of understand the question. It seems like it's more like being on probation or something like that, where you have to report because of bad behaviors or like not bad behavior, or like perceive that you got in trouble for whatever reason it is. So what we gotta do is say, okay, I have a goal, is I wanna stop having to report to this. So I'm gonna have to do this, and it really sucks. Right? It's not, there is no good way of feeling bad about it. Feeling better about it, except saying, okay, if I check those things off, and maybe actually like writing it off on a piece of paper, like a checklist, saying, if I go and I do this, then I'm gonna get to a goal that eventually I won't have to go to report to the police about it, or like report to probation about it. Am I understanding the question for this in terms of that? Okay.
This is about stress. Can you be the source of your stress? And if so, like, who can you go to talk to if you think like no one's going to understand what you're going through?
No one will understand you?
Yeah, like what you're going through.
Okay. So a question is, can you be a source of your own stress? Okay. I'm kind of curious, actually, I'm going to open this up to other people. I'll tell you what my thoughts, but what do you think? Can you be a source of your own stress? Oh, different question? Okay, can I come back to you? Okay, can someone raise their hand and tell me, can you be a source of stress? Yes?
What's the question?
Can you be a source of, can you be a source of stress for yourself? What do you think? No? Oh, she thinks so. Okay. So the answer is yes, we can be a source of stress for ourselves in terms of the way that we think about ourselves, or whatever it is that we're going through, right? And what happens when we get stuck in this negative cycle is that we actually think that no one will be able to help us. This is actually something that naturally happens. It's like, man, I'm feeling bad, no one can help me. It's all in my head. Sometimes we say that, it's all in my head, and just, you know what, I'll deal with it on my own. That's a trick. And sometimes actually the devil does that. The devil tries to trick us in saying that we're despair, no hope for us. There's nothing good for us. So we have to be able to say, you know what, no, I'm gonna challenge that, and be able to get the things that will help us, whether it be with church or other people, because there are people that want to help people that are thinking that there's their own stress. Jesus even said in that verse, come to me with your problem. Come to me because you have your own problem. That means that we have our stress. Come to me with your own problem and I'll take it. I'll carry it for you. So you gotta give it to me, but if you don't give it to me, then how am I supposed to help you? How are other people supposed to help you if they don't know that you have that problem? So you gotta give it to someone else to take care of it when you need it.
So I have a question here. Just a second, Jesus. Somebody on the Zoom is asking this. So now, with being unsocial, we have a lot of time that we're stranded at home, and we get addicted to PlayStation, YouTube, and whatnot. So how do we get out of this? And then I would just add, from my side, we're all complaining about the stress of homework, but I guarantee that most of us are spending hours on YouTube, PlayStation, games, and whatnot. How do we balance this so we'll be organized?
Yeah. So again, it goes back to the point of that we have to make sure that our time is scheduled. Okay. I know it's the answer that a lot of us don't want to hear, but this is what it is. If you want to play PlayStation, yes, play PlayStation. Okay. I'm telling you, if you love playing PlayStation, play PlayStation. But don't just play it until like whenever you feel like. You need to be able to say, I'm gonna play for 1 hour, and that's it. Because guess what? You have freedom sometimes, right? Sometimes parents will be like, you know what? You have your schedule. Go do whatever you want to do with it. But freedom comes with consequences. We have to be responsible with the time that we're given, actually, right? And this actually goes back to, if you guys remember the parable when Jesus gave people, he gave them seeds and said, hey, take these seeds and plant them, okay? And do you guys remember this parable? You guys, have you heard of this parable? Do you guys know what happened? All right, what happened in that parable? Just the summary, or like the gist of it.
So I don't know if I'm saying this right, but like the person took the seeds and he planted them in different areas. One in like a solid concrete road,
right?
One in the soft soil, one in like thorns, and one in another place I forgot. And then the ones on the road died. The ones in the thorns died. The one in the other place died. And the ones on the fresh, rich soil grew into big flowers or something. I forgot.
Perfect. Yeah, exactly. So you got it right. So what happened with that, and what we can learn from that parable, because it's very important, is that it took some planning, right? We can just, it's easier to just throw it and whatever, take care, like, don't even worry about it. But if you actually plan and say, okay, I'm gonna take care of this seed. I was given something to take care of. I'm gonna take care of this seed so I can grow it. That takes time. You have to get, okay, what am I gonna do in order to grow a seed? I need to place it in a certain area, and I need to actually get water. I need to expose it to the sun. So there is planning. Jesus tells us that there is planning that has to be done in our life. So if you wanna be able to play and have fun, you need to be able to also say, I'm gonna dedicate time to study. Yes.
So sorry to people who are not okay with like stuff that are like suicidal, like stuff. Sorry about that, but like I know this is too far, but and I apologize. But sometimes when I get really stressed, I would either say I hate my life or like suicidal stuff, and I don't know if that's okay. I keep regretting to say that kind of stuff, but I say it because I like get really mad.
All right. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. All right. I want if it's okay to talk about this just for 1 minute because I think it's important. So thank you for sharing it with me, first of all. All right. Sometimes we can have times where we think, you know what, we're really sick of this. This is too much, what we're dealing with. And it is. So whenever we get thoughts, we're like, okay, man, life is not really worth it. Well, what he pointed is very important. Sometimes when we get mad, we say those things. It's okay. We can accept those thoughts. Okay? So don't beat yourself up if the thought comes, right? Sometimes it's scary. Like, man, I don't want to study anymore. I'm done with all of this. It's fine if this thought comes. And we all have had it in our lives at one point. Okay? But what's important is if this thought gets to a level where you're like, you know what, I'm actually going to just figure out how to end my life. You need to speak to someone at that point. That's when it becomes scary. If every now and then when you're mad and you just say and you don't do anything about it, it might be okay, but you also should make sure to seek help, professional help. So I'm not going to give individual advices, but I would say make sure that you speak with your therapist or your psychiatrist in that sense.
One thing that I want to say that people are asking to talk to Dr. Mamdouh afterward, you're more than welcome. And so, but let your servant know. I think he has another an hour or so with us, but don't take advantage of him. The other thing that I want to add, I have tons of questions here about homework and how stressful it is and how it's frustrating to talk to on Zoom because you're talking to the whole class, and despite when you're in person, you choose not to talk or whatever. So basically, planning. Him and I were doctors, and you guys are having your life easy. When it gets harder, it's going to be harder. So you need to train yourself from now how to plan. Homework is never a problem, but the wasting time is a problem. And he can tell you this being younger than me, at least. Any more question? Anything on Zoom? Tanya, Patrick? Can? Okay, تعال.
So, pretty much, all right. Pretty much, I had another question for you.
As long as it's not personal, then
No.
Okay, perfect. Go for it.
I have a lot of trouble focusing. Like if I'm doing my homework with one of my servants, I'd be on the phone with them and my mind would be thinking of something totally different and I would have trouble focusing.
Okay, so I would say if you have trouble focusing, you might need to go see someone in order to make sure that there's nothing else that's going on that's leading you to have trouble focusing. So like actually talk to a doctor maybe about it. Talk to your parents saying, hey, I have trouble focusing. Is it possible for me to go to a doctor to see why I'm having trouble focusing? Because there's so many reasons, and I can't really take time to go through like hundreds of reasons of why you can have trouble focusing. I'm sorry that you're having trouble focusing. I think there's things that can be done to fix that though. Okay?
And sometimes when people say that, like, okay, if I say I'm gonna kill myself, sometimes I don't mean it. I'm just saying it, like,
No.
I just wanna just say something to let my anger out or something.
Right. So I think that kind of goes back to the point of what we talked about before. Sometimes we say things that we don't mean and we let anger out. So we have to figure out on how to relieve that stress so that we don't get to that point, right? So the idea is not to get to a point where we get so mad and go upset and then let it go. I want you to think of a spring. If you press on a spring, you keep pressing on it, you keep pressing on it, eventually what happens with that spring? Just kind of unwinds on its own. So it's important to be able to find ways to relax so that you don't escalate to that point. All right? All right. Go for it.
I was also gonna continue about the teacher, how it's unfair because my teacher, I'm doing digital, and my teacher just she buys work that other teachers did, and she just assigns it to us.
Sorry, I'm not understanding your question. Can you ask again? Sorry. What do you say about something about your teacher? Or what?
My teacher, she usually buys her stuff like assignments and work from a website, and then she assigns it to us. So like all she's doing is just being in Zoom with us for a few hours.
So again, it goes back to the point of unfairness, and I'm sorry, man, that this is what your teacher does, but what is given to you is also to your colleagues, right? Your classmates. If other people are having to go through it, so it's unfair. It's not just unfair to you, right? It's unfair to also the people that are in the class. So it's equal. So I guess it's equal at the end.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, pretty much. You know how? Okay, so some Zooms in my school, we only have 15-minute classes, and it only takes an hour, and then I don't really get to learn anything at that time because we spend half of the time doing if people are here or not, you know? And then my brother doesn't understand that, so he gets mad at me for not being able to do my homework. But my teacher's not teaching us anything. All she does, she takes 12 minutes doing if we're here or not, and then the other 3 is just watching a brain pop video that doesn't help us with her homework at all.
I get
and she doesn't understand that.
Totally. I totally hear you there. So what I'm hearing is there's some teachers that are good and they will do a good job, and some teachers that aren't, right? And that's also, believe it or not, that was the case before COVID. That was the case before Zoom. You guys remember the substitute teachers that would come? People used to complain about that too. Substitute teacher comes, they don't know what they're doing, we're wasting time. So the issue doesn't, if things are happening where it's wasted time, whether it be the teacher is not doing the job, it's happening on you, it's happening on other people in the class. So what we gotta say, we're not talking about the actual time in school. You try as much as possible to learn. We're trying to figure out after school, what am I gonna do to be able to meet the assignment so I can get the grade. At the end of the day, you wanna have that grade in your report card. So you gotta have a goal. How am I gonna get an A in this teacher's class? Because to get an A in this teacher's class is different than another teacher. So you have to be able to figure out what it is that you need to get to that goal. And sometimes you might need help with other people helping you to get to that goal.
Homework is always there and it's gonna grow.
Exactly.
So my main concern now is to deviate the conversation back to our main point. Like COVID and everything is handled on Zoom is creating a kind of disengagement between all of us.
Totally.
Disengagement between the teachers and the kids, between the parents and their kids, between servants and their kids.
Right.
Nobody is willing to try to break this disengagement. Give us effective ways.
And so there is no effective ways. Let me just answer that in a way. I'll tell you, I'll be honest with you. So I'm a psychiatrist, and the way that I see my patients, guess what? How am I seeing them right now? I'm seeing them on Zoom. Do I like it? No, I don't like it. So the fact is it's the current state. So we have one of two things to do, all right? To accept it and try to do the best that we can do with it, or fight it and be stressed about it and be annoyed about it. You can choose how we feel about it. It's a temporary thing. So the solution to this is how we deal with it. We recognize this is a temporary thing. I really hate seeing my patients on a computer. I'll tell you that. I love seeing my patients face to face. It's better. I can see how they're feeling, how they're talking, we can interact. There is this engagement. So for me to tell you, okay, do this thing and it will help with this engagement, that's almost always impossible. The TV screen or the computer screen will always, by default, create this engagement. The thing is, we're trying to figure out coping skills that can help us mitigate this temporarily until we get back in person. What can we do to make this, instead of being the worst thing ever, to being less worse, right? I don't know if that answers it. It's the frank and true answer. If I'm come to tell you, oh, go work out, go do those things will be perfect and back to normal. No, I'm lying to you. We're trying to just make it a little bit better until we get back to in person, and we're gonna get there.
One question, what if my parents are not allowing me to go out just to get exercise or get fresh air because they are afraid of COVID-19?
So that makes it difficult. So if you can't go outside, obviously, if this is one of your coping mechanisms, that makes it harder. So you can talk to them about it. One thing is to try to talk to them about it, wearing a mask, and then maybe they come with you. That's one way. If you're trying to get exercise. Another way is to stand outside in the balcony. They will hopefully let you at least get outside to get sunlight, because we actually need sunlight in order for vitamin D, which is very important for our mood. So we need to get sun exposure, so at least do that. And then find other alternatives. Again, it's a situation where you're asking me what to do with your parents. Everything is going to be different from one parent to the next. If the rule is in your house that you can't go outside, this is the rule. You have to accept it. This is the way it is. Your parents set the rule. They're the boss. So we have to respect your parents, be polite, say, okay, and understand where they're coming from. They're trying to protect you. And then figure out, what can I do with this situation, right? I can be pissed about it, can be annoyed about it, and just complain about it. That's one way, and you have the right to feel that way, by the way, and you can choose that. Or you can be like, you know what, it sucks. I really want to go out, I can't. What can I do? What is in my ability to do? I want to share a story with you real quick, actually. It comes from a book called The Meaning of Life, A Man's Search Meaning for Life. I don't know if you've ever guys read this book. This is by an author. His name is Viktor Frankl. I really recommend this book. This gentleman was a Jewish man that was in concentration camp. He was put in concentration camp. His wife was put in concentration camp. His sister and his father. All right? And unfortunately, they all got separated in this concentration camp. You guys, if you guys remember, or if you heard ever, concentration camps really was a terrible thing for people at that time. It was very devastating, worse than COVID, I can assure you, because people were dying and the conditions were terrible. It was just not really conducive to anything. This gentleman, Victor, his wife was separated from him. And he came to the conclusion of saying, okay, how am I going to survive and get out of this concentration camp? He had one of two choices. To be worried about his wife and concerned, which he should be because it's his wife, and can constantly think that she's dead. That's one way. Or the other way was to think, hey, I'm going to think positively. I'm going to try my best right now to survive, and hoping that when I get out, I'm going to reunite with my wife. Okay? That was the other way. Guess what? In both cases, he actually did not know the true thing, whether his wife was alive or not, or his sister or his parents. But the mentality, that what we call the positive mentality, helped him get out of this place surviving, right? Because otherwise, if he constantly was negative, that's stress, constantly. Okay, can I do my homework? I can't do it, and it's all negative, then he would have not survived. Reality is, he got out of concentration camp, his wife was dead, and his sister was dead, everybody else was, and he was the only one that got out alive in his family, and was able to write a book about how he was inspirational to the other people around him by being positive. So what I encourage each one of you is that you being positive as much as possible can help other people around you. So maybe you are the only one in your household that is positive and your family is stressed. So being that source of positive, not always sometimes we fall into this victim role. Oh, poor me, I have all this homework to do, I can't do anything, I'm just gonna play games. That's a negative victim mentality. A positive mentality is where, you know what, this sucks, all right? It is what it is. I'm in this situation. I'm gonna do the best I can with what I'm given. And then I'm going to submit the rest to God to help me with the rest. Does that answer it? Okay.
Final question. I don't know if it is proper or not. Somebody's asking if why church doesn't agree with watching a little bit of X-rated movies and stuff like this, because this is to decrease stress. So, do you want to answer this question?
Okay. So, some people are saying, hey, like maybe I think we're talking about porn, right? So, how about watch some porn, feel good, you know, it can decrease stress. And why the church doesn't agree with that? And it's very important, going back, I think the very, very first thing I said is what goes through our senses really affects us, okay? I mean, I'm gonna go back before talking about porn. I'm just gonna compare it. Why don't we just do some marijuana? It will help us decrease stress, right? So some people think that, right? And reality is some people, and maybe in this room actually are trying, and or have tried, or are doing marijuana. So the reason I compare those two, it's similar, because sure, it might release the stress temporarily, but reality is it actually healthy for us? They did research, because guess what? This is actually kind of cool. So they studied it. So they looked at MRIs, which is like what we look in our brain, to see what happens when we are watching porn, or when we're doing drugs, or when we are engaging in certain activities, in order to see what happens to our brain. And reality is, in the actual brain scans, it showed that our brain changes in structure, and certain areas in our brain that are what we call the amygdala, or the fear response, get lightened up very, very strongly. So while temporarily it will decrease the stress, trying marijuana, smoking cigarette, trying alcohol, watching porn, engaging in sexual activities, can possibly decrease stress. In the long run, it actually messes up with our brain. So this is from a scientific point. The church has recognized this long time ago, from the beginning of ages, even before Jesus Christ came to earth, and that's why they have established this. Things that are done in church is not really in order to make us unhealthy. It's done in order for us to be whole, for us to be one with Christ, for us to be one body in order to survive in a better sense. So that's kind of giving you the scientific background behind why watching porn or doing those things are not really healthy for us, scientific part, and the church goes kind of exemplifies that, because it's what's good for our spirit in order to survive, to do better. So if you find yourself struggling with doing some things that are addictive, then it might be that you are not building things in your schedule that are healthy, right? That are making you a better person, or making your brain feel better. So that might be the alert or the red flag saying, hey, maybe instead of watching porn or doing that thing, maybe I should do something different in order to make my brain feel better. And then it's okay that we all struggle with those things, right? We all have things that we struggle with. So this is not to blame or point fingers or anything. This is not an issue. It's just to figure out what can we do in order to be healthier.
The last question. If fear is overwhelming that I am for function on daily basis, I am afraid of being sick. My parents lost a job. People have chip in their shoulder and faint. What can you help overcome fear?
Overcome fear? So how can you help overcome fear when there's so much going on? You know, I can share a story real quick. I had actually experienced that with my family when we first came to the United States. It was very difficult for us because my parents struggled, as maybe many of your parents have, financially. And I took that stress and internalized it, and I did feel that way. I felt, man, what can I do? It's too much on me. I'm trying to study, but I'm also worried about my dad's job, worried about what my mom is gonna do, worried about my younger brother. So many worries, right? So I understand whoever asked this question, what you're going through when that happens in your family. The most important thing to do in that is to be able to say, what is my role in this situation, right? So is it logical that we're gonna get our parents a job? No, that's difficult. That's outside our reach. So we gotta be able to figure out what is within our limit and what is without our limit. So within our limit, we can do our part in terms of either studying, taking care of ourselves, taking care of our health, and then praying for our parents that God gives them a job and believing that Jesus Christ will help them get through whatever it is. Because if we don't, then why are we in church? If we don't believe that things will change, why are we here? Then there is no hope. If we don't believe in the power of prayer for it to change things, then there is no point. And then we always say this, by fasting and prayer, by fasting and prayer. There's a reason why the church has done that. So my answer is, have hope, pray, and know that things will change. So things are bad right now, they will get better. They will. If you don't believe that, then you're always going to get stuck in that. And whether it be financial now, tomorrow it's going to be school, the day after that it's going to be college, there's always going to be the problem. So it's important to get back to your root, saying, you know what, there's things I can do, there's things I can't. I'm going to share with you one last thing. One of my mentors had shared this with me before because we all have an anxiety, and I've shared with him that I'm having an anxiety. And he told me, Mamdouh, you don't have wings, you can't fly. Why is he telling me this? Why is he telling me this? Right? And I kept thinking about it over and over. So the reason he told me this is because sometimes it seemed that he saw that I was trying to do things that are outside my reach. I don't have wings, so why am I pretending like I can fly? So same thing with, I can't really fix someone else's problem. So I'm pretending like me worrying about it will fix it. No, it will not. But what I can do is I can focus on my assignment. I can focus on what I can do. And whatever is not outside my reach, I pray and I ask God that He can help because He is higher than all of us. He created us.
I think this is all, but I can't thank Dr. Mamdouh enough. And then if somebody wants to talk to him, please give yourself only 5 minutes. If somebody wants to talk to him, come to me. I take your name and I'll coordinate. Okay, stand up for prayers, and then we can call it a day. There is somebody lost a necklace here, like a butterfly, pink. I'll leave it to Tante Ghada if somebody would ask for it. Finally, Lord, through the intercession of Saint Mary, Archangel Michael, Pope Kerollos, all the saints and martyrs who please you since the beginning, give us the strength in this hard time. Empower us with your grace. Forgive us our sin and listen to our prayer. Through the intercession of Saint Mary, Archangel Michael, Pope Kerollos, when we say, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses. Give those who trespass against us, lead us not in temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. Through Christ Jesus our Lord, for thine kingdom, power, and glory now forever. Amen. So if somebody wants to meet one-on-one with Dr. Mamdouh, please come over here. No one? Should we let him go?